Hey everybody, impromptu obvious garage today. Unfortunately, on my way home from work, saw smoke coming out under the hood of my Subaru, and it smelled really bad. So the alarm went off, and I had to figure out what was going on. And let it cool off, and let's take a look. All right, hood's up, obviously. And what happened was one of the belts melted, and it was the accessory belt. I had the air conditioning on, and I'll show you why I think that happened in a second. The first thing I did was I grabbed some tools. You will need a 10 millimeter and a 12 millimeter socket, as well as an extension. And I've already gone ahead and removed some bolts. So you want to take off this 10 millimeter, this 10 millimeter, this 10 millimeter, and then loosen this 12. Once you do that, this plastic cover just comes off. You can see melted belt inside of it. Then we can take the metal cover off. Don't take that bolt that's next to the alternator out all the way. It comes out without doing that. So take that cover off. And I'm going to show you how to loosen these belts. So the way you do that is for the main belt, which drives the alternator, you're going to want to loosen this bolt down here. That's a kind of a retaining bolt. And then you have this long screw. And what you can do, and I've loosened this already a little bit, is that'll allow you to move the alternator around, which will loosen the belt. Next, on this side, you have the same mechanism. So you have a retaining bolt. In this case, it's way down there. See 3 bolts in a row. It's the bottom one. And that goes around the tensioner pulley. And then once that is loose, you can use the screw here to bring the pulley up towards you, which will loosen the accessory belt right here. And that's where I get to what I think happened. So the last time I tightened the belt, I have a hunch that I didn't cinch that bottom belt down enough, and it allowed the tensioner pulley to wobble. I don't know that for sure, but what happened was the Subaru ate my belt. It's all glazed now. It smelled real bad, and so I think that's what happened. So anyway, my advice is, if you want to take advice from someone that puts their tools on top of a battery, my advice is take a picture of how the belts are routed, get them off, inspect everything, make sure everything that turns smoothly, and anything that shouldn't turn doesn't, and then we'll get the new belts on here and tension everything up. So I'll be right back. Okay, belts are off. After a trip to the Friendly Auto Parts store, we got 2 new belts, about $50 worth. Now, what's important with belts is the last 5 numbers there. So what the Subaru 2003 2.5 liter takes is a 5350 and a 4353. And pro tip here, hold them up to your existing belts, even if the belt's broken, and make sure they're the right size before you completely take them out of the packaging. And I always save the receipt just in case. So what I'm going to do is size them up, make sure they're the right size. Then I'm going to test all of the things that spin and make sure they spin nice and freely, which the alternator does, and get the new belts on. So I'll be right back. All right, boo, we got to stop the video right now. Not putting the new belt on because I'm spinning the air conditioner, and you can hear that. It also has a lot of movement in it. So I think we got a bad bearing here. That's what killed the belt. It wasn't my fault. So I'm going to have to get some parts, come back, replace that, and then we can get all the new belts back in. All right, guys, day 2. Now that we've realized it's not my fault, so I guess one of those weird times where I wish it was. Let's have a look. All right, so we have air conditioning, pulley, clutch, bearing, really bad. So that's our problem. That's the reason why we burned up the belt. I was really hoping I just didn't tension that bolt down there and the pulley got wobbly. Not the case. So I've ordered a replacement clutch, pulley, and bearing. The whole works. So the first step in replacing that actually is to get the I guess clutch plate, you would call it, off. There is 3 threaded holes. Now, I took out the center screw. Sometimes you get really lucky and this just comes off. Not for me. So there's 3 holes here. They're threaded. And if you get yourself a few bolts, you put them in the threaded holes, start cranking them down, and in theory, this will pop off. So I'm gonna get those bolts in, and I'll be right back. Okie dokie, so I got some bolts threaded on there. I think these are a M5, maybe an M4. Using long ones and a socket wrench, I'm gonna push those in. One thing I forgot to mention is when you remove the center bolt, you're gonna wanna use an impact wrench or just hold this real tight. If you don't, this is just gonna spin. So I hit it with the impact, pulled it right out. So now I'm gonna tighten these until the clutch pops off. So I'm gonna do that now. Okay, I got the clutch off. It was a huge pain in the ass. It was really seized on there. You're probably asking, why the F is there a Sawzall on top of the car? Don't you worry your pretty little heads about that. As I say, buy higher quality bolts and you might be able to get this thing off a little bit easier. Alright, next step is there's a, what do you call it, circlip in there. Gonna pop that off. Parts came in, so let's see what we got. Alright, so we got a baggie with the new snap ring, brand new bolts, new spacer. We have the outer clutch surface right there, brand new. We have the pulley, inner clutch surface, and brand new bearing. And then finally we have the magnet. So we're gonna put these on in the reverse order we took them off. All right, we got the coil on. It's a little loose, but that's good because there's 3 screws that hold it in. One thing I needed from getting the old one off is a little light sanding of the lip that it goes over. There was like a little of an edge from getting the old one off. So applied some anti-seize compound, slid this on, used a soft rubber mallet to just go around in circles until it's on all the way, and now we're going to screw it in. The only thing, I don't know what it is this little plastic bit that came on the cord. The old one doesn't have it. It seems like it should be going through some kind of retainer, but I actually don't see anything here that it should go through. So if you know what that's for, let me know in the comments. Okay guys, the coil is on. It's screwed in. Let's see if you can see. Yep. So 3 screws. My suggestion, pro tip, magnetize the head of your screwdriver because these screws are small. It's a little bit hard to get them into those holes, and if you drop one, you'll be sorry. So magnetize the tip of your screwdriver, get that screwed in, and the next thing we do is get the pulley over the magnet. So let's do that now. Got it on. Not super easy to get on, but what will make it a lot easier is for you to loosen up the pulley here. It's got 2 bolts, a bolt here and a bolt here, and if you loosen it, you can kind of push it out of the way so that the pulley slides on. So that's the belt tensioner. Just kind of move it to the side, and then this goes on. Now, I made a mess of anti-seize compound. It's all over everything. I guess it was on my mallet. So I'm gonna clean everything a little bit with a rag and some brake cleaner and get that surface degrimed. Then we'll put the other side of the clutch on. We'll put the snap ring in, then we'll put the other side of the clutch on. All right, it's time to put the last part on. And that's the outside of the clutch. You can see there's these little spacers inside of there. Let's see if I make them flat. And the old clutch had 3. There's the old one. And so I'm gonna put 3 in this and check the gap. You want just a hair of a gap between the 2 clutch surfaces, and I'll actually use a tool to measure that, but I'm gonna put it on with 3 now and see how that goes. Alright guys, after messing with spacers for a while, I think I found the ideal ones. I haven't bolted this down hard yet, but here I have the minimum gap and the maximum gap, and if you need a shot of those. And so the minimum should fit, no problem, and the maximum should not. no problem. So we are in a go situation for bolting this in, and then we'll just test one more time to make sure we have the right gap. And if that's good, we're almost done. So we got the belts are back on. I've tensioned them. So in the longest part of them, there's a little deflection. Not too much. You can always tighten them up later. If you put them on too tight, that can be what damages these bearings. Obviously, I've remembered to tighten down all the bolts I loosened on the accessory belt tensioner. Common problem people have is they put these belts on, but they're not sitting in all the grooves. So really make sure they are before you start the engine. Before I start it again, I am going to before I put the covers back on, I'm going to start it, listen for noises, then I'm going to engage the air conditioning, make sure the clutch spins or works, and if that's good, we'll button it all up. Belts are on. I did a quick engine start, looked good, but let's do a little demo for you. So I'll jump in the car. We'll turn off the AC. We will turn on the engine. All right, engine off, neutral, brake on. And everything's spinning nicely, and you can see the clutch is not engaged. So let's go back and turn on the AC. And I actually heard it click, which is a good sign. And clutch is engaged. So now we're good to go. So I'm gonna go ahead and put the covers back on, tighten all the bolts, make sure everything's snug, and that's how you fix the air conditioning in a Subaru when you just thought it was a bad belt. It's another episode of Avi's Garage. Don't forget to like and subscribe.